Good morning. It is March 14th at 5:37 a.m. Good morning. My name is Michael Schuman. I am the administrative director of the Karmic Margin Call Project. I'm also the coordinator of the Virtual Services Time Bank. And welcome to my presentation. Thank you so much for joining me. So let me tell you a little bit about what I do before I go into this presentation today. So what I do is I help good people with impeccable character leverage time and talent to unrig the financial system. So we're kind of helping make things a little better, helping people achieve economic equality. And that's what this is all about. Now, before I go into my presentation, I want to just talk a little bit about my personal journey leading me up to this presentation today. So this is going to be the start of something that I hope will be meaningful. I'm not doing this for any kind of great recognition or for money or fame or anything like that. I realized that I wanted to save lives, and I hope that it will. A very sobering statistic that I came across this week is that 33,000 people die every day of starvation. Now, by my calculations, that put it to about 10 million a year. I saw other research that put that at about 9 million a year. So we're talking about 9 to 10 million people dying a year of starvation. And that's not even including people who die from war or from, mental health issues. So this is a big problem. And to me, it's inexcusable. And I just want to take responsibility for my part in helping. What you're about to see today has been shared with business interests. There are billionaires who have this information. They attempted to try to attain legal rights over it. But what we're going to be talking about today is an equal partnership economy. Nobody owns it. It's the process of leveraging our time in order to redistribute the power, redistribute economic power. So I want to take personal responsibility for that today. It used to be my habit to kind of blame the billionaires, blame the big banks for withholding this information or not even starting a conversation about this information. I'm done with that. I'm just done. I want to take responsibility. It's nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault but my own for for chasing after it for personal gain now. I just want to be able to help. And I just want to be able to help improve the quality of life. If this information can help improve the quality of life, that is what I'm after. So it was also my habit to kind of blame the big tech companies, the Facebooks, the Googles, the YouTubes for suppressing this information because I've been putting this information out for a long time now. But I'm not blaming them anymore. Look, Facebook, Google, YouTube, I'm not blaming you anymore. It's not your fault. Okay. Let's start this conversation and see where this goes, because changing things is just a matter of education and emotional intelligence. And we're going to cover a lot of terrain today. So again, thank you for joining me. Today's presentation, I'm going to identify 3 barriers. I call them 3 roadblocks of what is really getting in the way of socioeconomic stability and socioeconomic equality. And I also want to identify the 3 pillars of how to create equality. And then I'll tell you a little bit about a certification program or how you can become involved with this information and help make it a reality, help make an equal partnership economy a reality. So I work a lot with artists, teachers, educators, and entrepreneurs to come together and have meaningful dialogue about moving this forward to help really the conversation to solve global problems in an effective manner forward. So I'm going to go into my presentation here, and I want you to think about something. I want to think about you. I want this to be about you, and I want you to think about who you are. what do you really want? You know, what do you really want to accomplish in your life, in your world? And as I put up this slideshow, I want you to ask yourself if you are, I'm just waiting for my, there we go. So we're going to slideshow. Bear with me one moment as I put my technology up here. Okay, so I want you to ask, as you are looking at this, are you a change agent? Are you here to help things change? Are you part of the group of people that really want to see things change for the better? Now, my understanding is only about 2.5% of people in the world are going to be ready for this information. My belief is that if you're still listening, even after the first few minutes, you may be a change agent. So I understand this information is not going to be for everybody. Only about 2.5% of the world's population will probably understand, or at least have a little bit of a basic understanding about what I'm going to talk about today. So I want you to ask yourself, are you truly here to help this process of change? Are you a change agent? Are you a thought leader? I think a thought leader is someone who is curious. They're aware of their judgments. They're making critical judgments. They're aware of what's wrong. They're aware of how to make things better. But there's this journey of coming out of judgment and more into curiosity. So if that sounds like you might be a thought leader, and this information will be very relevant to you. And finally, are you an influencer? Do you want to influence this change? Do you want to really just wake up every day and just be completely immersed in inspiration? Do you truly like people? So those are the things I want you to ask yourself as we go through this. And at the end of this presentation, I will give you the opportunity to deepen this conversation. But these are the people I'm looking for: the change agents, the thought leaders, and the influencers. So like I said, we're going to identify 3 roadblocks, 3 variables that really stand in the way of making this world a better place. Then we're going to talk about the 3 solutions, or the 3 the 3 helpful hints on how to overcome those barriers. And then we're going to talk about how to get involved with it. So my role in this is to help facilitators emerge, to help brokers emerge. So at the end, I'm going to introduce more of an opportunity to help you facilitate more conversations. We call them fellowships, and to to kind of be involved more with the time bank, to administer the time bank. At the moment, I'm calling that brokering. How to become a time bank broker, and and benefit from this shift. Okay, so here we go. These are what I believe are the 3 roadblocks to economic equality. This is what causes war, poverty, starvation, polarization, all of these things. And to me, these 3 variables, these 3 roadblocks are kind of interchangeable. It's hard to distinguish one from the other. And they're really more psychological states, meaning they don't really exist except within our minds. But the mind is a very powerful thing. So the first thing I've identified is cultural divisiveness. So we're going to talk about cultural divisiveness, how to start that conversation about bringing different cultures together, bringing different mindsets together. The second one is competitive conditioning. This need, this internal need to be the best at the expense of others. This need to kind of compartmentalize and not see some of the detrimental ways that our ambition sometimes hurt others. And then the third one is the extractive economy. So the extractive economy is about exploiting time, is about taking this resource of social capital and exploiting it. So that's done by, again, compartmentalization, secrecy, and really kind of pulling emotional levers. There's many arms to this. There's trafficking, there's the drug trade, there's war, there's the weapons trade, all of it. Um, it's really this idea of intimidation, ruled by intimidation, by fear, greed. And it starts with us. It starts with you personally in changing the extractive economy into a regenerative economy. And that's what this presentation will be about. So every one of those roadblocks has a counter. And today's presentation will get really into the deep dive on how to put money market mechanics to work for you with what you are already doing. And that's important to really identify, to recognize what you're already doing, what brings you joy, where are you effective, where are you already having those effective conversations. That all has value. That all has value in a regenerative economy. You're just being exploited. We're all being exploited. So I want you to know that what is being offered today does not contradict anything that you're doing or any group is doing. It helps put the money market mechanics to work with what you are already doing. So we'll first look at cultural divisiveness. Let's interrupt that. This year, 2021, is really going to be focused on helping people create effective fellowship. So I want to be clear, fellowship is not a religious concept, not in terms of this initiative. If you want to bring philosophy, religion, the ability to really kind of see how religion or occultism plays into politics or economy, that all is fair game. So you can do with fellowship whatever you want. For the purposes of this initiative, it's not intended to be inherently religious. So we do want to have those deep conversations about spirituality, about religion, about how it affects the system. But fellowship facilitation is how we start to interrupt that cultural divisiveness and change the conversation so that our time is not exploited and we can leverage it. So I want you to ask yourself a few questions. And this will hopefully spark a personal conversation with you. As I'm doing this, again, I know that big tech is going to suppress this video, so I'm not concerned about a lot of people watching this, but I want you to think about this in terms of a one-on-one conversation. If you and I were having this conversation, asking yourself, have you been trying to build a community, and is it challenging? What's getting in the way of truly building community, where everybody, has a fair, equal stake in it. There seems to be people who are leaders. There's tend to be people who are followers. There are critical thinkers. There are creative thinkers. Why is it so difficult to bring them together? And a lot of that is because there's a lot of programming out there. There's a lot of there's a lot of media out there that is triggering emotions that are keeping us from seeing each other clearly and having those emotionally intelligent conversations. Are you curious about why dedication and commitment seem to be so elusive? And that's the thing. A lot of people are great at starting, but following through, knowing that this is the long game, taking it, one step at a time, taking it, one goal at a time. So I want you to start asking yourself, what are you dedicated to? What can you wake up every day and be inspired by, get you up early in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning for me, and keep you up late at night? What is your burning passion? Those are some of the deep questions I want you to ask yourself. As you ask yourself, are you curious about why a lot of people are not dedicated or committed? It's because we're being held down. We're being compartmentalized from our passion, and that's by an extractive system. And now, most importantly, I want you to ask yourself: do you personally have a role to play in bridging cultural and societal gaps? I want to work with people who genuinely like people. And that's not to say I'm looking for extroverts. I'm looking for introverts. I'm an introverted person. Um, and what I'm really looking for are people who have a role to play, and they understand the value of bridging misunderstandings. To me, a misunderstanding is not so much about logic or mindfulness as much anymore. It's about emotional intelligence, emotional distortion, recognizing where we become emotional and understanding the roots of those emotions and helping others understand the roots of those emotions. So again, a lot of these roadblocks, they're really indistinguishable from each other. There's definitely a very it's very unclear about where one ends and the other begins. So this cultural divisiveness is a byproduct of competitive conditioning or the underdevelopment of emotional intelligence. So I'm looking for people who've done the work on themselves. And I've been in my own life, especially in the last couple of years, especially this last year with COVID, there's been a lot of emotional triggers being pulled. And if you're listening to this presentation, you've been through some of those fires yourself, and you've done that work. You've done the inner work within yourself. So I'm looking for people who have already done the work. Um, I'm looking, especially with COVID and the vaccine rollout being right now, I'm looking for people willing to look and put themselves in the shoes of someone at the other end of the table. So yeah, so that is a lot of emotional work. So this conditioning, the competitive conditioning, is what creates conflict, poverty, and social inequality. So we want to be able to look honestly at that urge for egoic power to be better than others. That's something that we want to be very honest with ourselves, because when we start to recognize that everybody truly does have value, that's when the rubber hits the road with a program like this. So here's a key understanding, and this is very polarizing. This is something where people kind of back away from the table when when they find this out. But most people, especially our political and corporate leadership, people put in front of the camera in the media, they never progress past a 5-year-old emotional level. So they're really only functioning between 5 to 10 years old emotionally. And that's a big distinction. That's something where when you first find that out, for me personally, I kind of said, no, that's not true. I am way more advanced than that. But that's the trap, because the more we become intellectually advanced, especially with technology like this, like what we have, we, we neglect our emotional state. We we reject kind of what truly makes us unique, what truly makes us vulnerable, and that's our greatest power. So the more advanced we get intellectually, the more we get away from the emotional development. And the deeper you go with emotional development, you realize that everybody is human. You realize that everybody is fighting a battle that you know nothing about, to quote Robin Williams. Um, so I'm looking for people who are willing to take responsibility now and look at how we are being conditioned to stay emotionally stunted. So that's big. All right. So the second one is competitive conditioning. So we started talking about that already. How do we interrupt that? That's where time banking comes in, time bank brokering. So the basic concept of a time bank, and I go into this more in great depth with my other presentation, the 5-year plan. It's this idea that everybody's hour has value. Regardless of your socioeconomic status, no matter how great you think you are, everybody really does have equal value when they're in their element, when they're, and when we are are sensitive, and we're vigilant about helping people find their value, their social capital. So this idea of 1 hour for 1 hour, 1 hour of service provided is worth 1 hour of service received. This is how we interrupt the competitiveness, meaning it becomes less, extrinsic, where we're trying to beat other people, and it becomes more intrinsic about, okay, what do I need to understand about myself in order to see the value in the other person? So we're interrupting competitive conditioning. So here's the questions again. Are you just done dedicating your time to people who just do not appreciate you? Think about that for a moment. How much time are you spending with people who just truly do not see your full value? I made a post just yesterday where I made the observation that when you're with the wrong people, you can't say the right thing, no matter what. But when you're with the right people, you can't say the wrong thing. So that's something that I'm sure you've experienced, that when you're with the right people, when you're with your tribe, and when I say tribe, I'm not talking about tribalism. I'm talking about those you genuinely resonate with on an emotional, maybe even spiritual level. So ask yourself, are you just done with it? Are you tired of competing just to be heard? Part of the inspiration behind this presentation is because I am seeing so much brilliance out there. There are so many thought leaders, so many influencers who are doing such a wonderful, wonderful job. And I'm like, I want to work with them. I want to have this conversation with them, because I think if we have this conversation, we'll change the world. But social media, our technology makes it so that my voice gets drowned out in a sea of thousands of others, hundreds of others. So I'm just done competing with the technology. I'm done competing with other people who have just as brilliant of ideas. My intention is bringing these ideas together and start having the effective collaboration to move forward. So ask yourself, yeah, I am competing to be heard, and it's really extracting my energy. It's really depleting me. I'd like to try to see if there's something different now. Does working in a hierarchy or a hierarchical structured environment feel emotionally toxic? Overwhelmingly, when people really ask this question honestly, overwhelmingly the answer is yes, it's emotionally toxic. I'm done with it. I want to start my own business. I want to do my own thing. And some people who are really good people, who genuinely like people, end up not liking people when staying in this environment, like a corporate environment, for too long. So here's how we interrupt it. Here's the information that I have to offer to interrupt that now. So first of all, it's not your fault. Most people do not know how to communicate in a collaborative fashion. Okay, we go into this deeper in the other presentation, the 5-year plan. But there are 6 principles that, when observed regularly, it increases your ability to collaborate. Just to touch on them very, very quickly, those are generous listening, committed speaking from your heart, mutuality, having mutual respect, coachability, being able, with generous listening comes the ability to be coached and allow yourself to be coached, energy awareness, which is emotional intelligence, and curiosity, again, going from that state of judgment to becoming curious. So those are 6 principles we delve into in this program, and also in the other presentation that I offer. Almost no one understands the value of fellowship. So the true secret behind power and influence, even at that top tier level, is fellowship. I say this often, and it's quite triggering to people who have not followed this track of information, who have not followed their research. Behind closed doors, Republicans and Democrats are praying together. They may come across as mortal enemies in the media, but behind closed doors, there's collaboration there. So that do with that what you will. That might be triggering, and it might the term conspiracy theory might come up. But it really is true. The deeper you go into that, you understand that the only difference between someone who's really struggling and someone who seems to have had it made, although they don't have it made emotionally, is that there is some degree of collaboration going on there, fellowship. And here's something that's really important to understand because it helps create empathy, it helps bridge gaps. That even the most highly trained people fall short of practicing emotional intelligence when their job, reputation, or safety is on the line. It's a challenge for me to even present this material because when I get into reverse market mechanics and time banking, that information is very advanced, but it's also game changing. I have a friend who was a confidant and a financial advisor to a billionaire family who told me, Mike, if people were really capable of understanding this, your life would be in danger. I've never had an experience where I felt that was true, but it's made me curious. So when safety, reputation, and job is on the line, when those factors are on the line, all of this emotional intelligence, all of that training goes out the window and they regress to that 5-year-old level. And if we can start to have intelligent conversations about that, we'll start to move things. We'll start to, to take the tangible steps forward in bridging those gaps in misunderstanding. All right, so now we're interrupting the extractive economy, and that's done by reverse market mechanics. A majority of this presentation is going to be dedicated to helping you understand through numbers how reverse market mechanics works, how to leverage time to change the rules of the economy and to make it equal. So are you done forever with the rat race and with the misunderstandings associated with class warfare? So tribalism plays a big factor in our world right now. It's emotionally regressive. So to interrupt and to see clearly how the extractive economy works, I'm asking those who want to deepen this conversation now to step away and just say, I'm done competing. I'm done aggrandizing myself, and I want to understand how and why this tribalistic, this tribalistic mentality has dominated for so long. Are you tired of social climbing and playing someone else's game? And that's really what it is. It is someone else's game. We didn't make the rules. I think it's important to start to now understand the rules, and that takes a lot of emotional maturity, to even be able to talk about what we're going to be talking about today. But we have to recognize that it's someone else's game. And once we start to understand the rules of that game, we can change them. And finally, are you just done with inauthenticity? Are you done with inauthentic professional relationships? You got to be honest with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, this material means nothing. So that's really what it comes down to, is how honest are you willing to be with yourself? I mean, you can compartmentalize, you can, paint a picture of yourself in your mind that may or may not be accurate to other people. You can lie to me, you can lie to others, but if you're lying to yourself, it really slows things down. So here's some information as far as my understanding of what's really going on in the world. Almost everyone is unaware. So I don't think I've met anyone yet really who has the deep appreciation of how time and money are interrelated. I mean, you've heard time is money, time is more valuable than money. But this extraction, this exploitation of time, this exploitation of social capital has now led us to a $277 trillion and counting global debt. It's probably more than that. We just had that stimulus package that just got approved in our American government. And by the way, I'm using American dollars with most of these figures. So please forgive me if you're watching from another country or use a different currency. But yeah, that's a moving target, and there are a lot of experts, and we would talk about this in fellowship as well too. Who state that it's probably more than 277 trillion at this point. There's a lot of undisclosed spending that is going on that is not on public record. And this figure, by the way, is from fall of 2020. So currently, as of this recording, we're in March of 2021. That's growing. Most people do not understand how to leverage time and talent to accumulate passive income within an equal partnership economy. I think 1% of the 1% of our population knows how to do that. But most of us completely ignorant on how to do that. And we're hoping to bridge those gaps in this understanding. And finally, almost no one even knows what an equal partnership economy is, or that it is being established. If you stuck with me so far, and if you continue with me in this presentation, you can't claim that ignorance anymore.